Hidden in the depths of Hyrule can be found 6 statues, said to be deliverers of the spirits to the afterlife. These beings are just one of many great mysteries hiding in the depths of Hyrule. But what if I told you they might actually be the key to unraveling a new side to one of the most age-old and highly debated Zelda theories to ever exist? The Bargainer statues remain mysterious in their origins and true intentions throughout Tears of the Kingdom. But one thing is very apparent, and that's their connection to the afterlife in the Kingdom of Hyrule. These towering, otherworldly beings have captured the imagination of many players in their vagueness. Some might say they are the new Zonai-level mystery Tears of the Kingdom offers. The Bargainer's main role and source of their name comes from their trade, exchanging wares with Link for the return of Pose. Pose are described by them as spirits that ought to return to the afterlife. They are pitiful beings who have lost their way home and wander this land. While much of the lore surrounding these mysterious figures and their just foreboding overall appearance can have them interpreted as malicious beings with dark intentions, their plainly stated purpose is in service to lost souls, that they may be guided to the afterlife. But maybe that doubt of good intentions comes from more than just taking their words at face value. I mean, just look at their domain, the depths. A dark, decrepit, literal underworld to Hyrule. Their backs. That is a two-faced liar if I have ever seen one. And finally, their locations. Once this eerie little detail was discovered, it was clear there was more to these titans' story than meets the eye. Tears of the Kingdom's depths mirrors the layout of the surface in many ways. For example, every light route in the depths is located directly above a shrine on the surface. Is there some lore explanation for this? Maybe, but quite honestly, I believe it's more likely a level design decision for the sake of gameplay and player guidance. What I think is more than a coincidence, however, is that all 6 of the subterranean Bargainer statues just so happen to be placed directly below statues of the goddess Hylia on the surface of Hyrule. First, we have the Temple of Time sitting above the great abandoned central mines. Then, the 3 springs of power, wisdom, and courage, with the well springs hidden in the depths below them. Next, we have the Plains Bargainer statue, where you might be inclined to say this conspiracy falls apart if you look at Hyrule's surface. But, keep going up, and you'll find the counterpart you're looking for in the original Temple of Time. Finally, this leads us to the most important Hylia statue and the most important Bargainer, in the Forgotten Temple, and towering over the cliffs of the depths, respectively. The Forgotten Temple has long been speculated to be the home of the original statue of the goddess Hylia that once stood proudly as the focal point of the ancient floating city in the chronological first game of the Zelda timeline, Skyward Sword. This would make the surrounding Forgotten Temple actually the remains of the Sealed Ground Temple that once housed a slumbering Zelda and the Gate of Time. Tears of the Kingdom adds an interesting wrinkle to the narrative, though. The people that named themselves after an anagram for the word mystery, only to come out into the limelight and make the entirety of Zelda canon a mystery. Hidden beyond the statue of the goddess in the Forgotten Temple, players can now access a hidden chamber built by the Zonai to house the sage's secret stones, as well as a map of the entirety of Hyrule with the locations of the Dragon Tears geoglyphs. Now, the Zonai are a funny little piece of canon lore because they seem to contradict the mythology established in Skyward Sword. You know, the game whose entire existence was marketed as being the beginning of the story. And, you know, literally only 4 games were developed, none of which meaningfully expanded on the plot before they jumped ship and wrote something to contradict it completely? Yes, I am angry. Yes, the lore in Tears of the Kingdom makes no sense. And yes, I could have done it better. But that's a story for another day. Yeah, the Zonai are here, they defaced this historical monument. Get over it. Below the temple, we get the most complete picture yet of just how massive the Bargainer statues really get. This giant, towering silhouette is the body of an unobscured Bargainer statue. And while this is the most well-preserved and close to the surface we see a Bargainer statue, the Mother Goddess statue on the surface seems to be in quite the opposite state. When first heading to the Forgotten Temple in Tears of the Kingdom, the Mother Goddess statue can be seen toppled over. Could this be a bleak commentary on the state of the kingdom following the upheaval? Or representative of a power shift as this yin and yang's other half comes knocking at its ceiling? Back in February of 2023, a few months before the release of Tears of the Kingdom, I made a theory that pegged the then unrevealed Rauru as Hyrule's hidden deity of death, and Hylia as its deity of life. While that theory might have identified the wrong person to play the role of deity of death, in hindsight, it might have still been on to something huge. I think we found those gods. Now I'm going to ask that from this point onward you bear with me, because we're about to go off the deep end. The Giants, also known as the guardian deities of Termina, once lived among the people in a singular world before Termina split into different isolated regions. When the time came, each giant took 100 steps away from Clocktown to the four corners of the world. They left the people with a promise that should they need them, to call, and they would return. However, an imp who had befriended the giants, the Skull Kid, felt betrayed by the departure of his friends, the great deities. So as the story goes, he spread his anger across the four worlds repeatedly. He wronged all people. Overwhelmed with misfortune, the people sang the song of prayer to the giants who lived in each of the four compass directions. The giants heard their cry and responded with a roar. "You have caused the people pain. O imp, leave these four worlds. Otherwise we shall tear you apart." The imp returned to the heavens, and harmony was restored to the four worlds. Many have interpreted this story told by Granny in Majora's Mask as a prophecy of the events of the 3-day repeating cycle of Majora's Mask. But I think the case can be made that this is not the full story of Majora's Mask, but its prologue, and that returning to the heavens is both literal and metaphorical for Skull Kid. He was banished from the afterlife back to the mortal plane of Hyrule. And Termina, Hyrule's afterlife, does exist on a plane literally below Hyrule. Yes, I am saying that Termina is an afterlife to Hyrule, and that Termina in the depths might just be one and the same. How do you access Termina in Majora's Mask? By falling down what seems to be an endless hole. What are the odds that both these places just so happen to have the only giant deities we see in all of the Legend of Zelda series? Now, I know that a lot of people like to make fun of the Link is dead theory, but let me level with you here for a second. That is one of the most interesting Zelda theories there is. These videos, these theories, they're made for entertainment. They're made to connect dots that are there, whether intentionally or not, and paint a picture for you of broader lore that we know will never be confirmed. I can tell you right now, more confidently than ever, that the Zelda team doesn't care that much about how deep their narratives go. But despite that fact, finding deeper meanings within that lore is fun. Is this a shaky connection to make? Yeah, but it's not baseless. And it does give me an opportunity to talk about the Link is dead theory a little bit, which is something I've always wanted to do. So how do we get from here to here? How does the depths appear in Tears of the Kingdom as it does and Termina appears in Majora's Mask as it does, while them still remaining the same place. Well, of course, we have a very long and undefined time gap between the two games, but I want to give a better justification by asking the question, how does the afterlife work? Who's to say? Termina could be Link's interpretation of the realm as he appears in Majora's Mask. The form Termina takes is in the eye of the beholder. People point out that Link couldn't have died as a child when he went into the forest to find Navi, because he has a lineage. We see it in Twilight Princess. But who's to say he did die as a child? Although he appears as a child in Majora's Mask, maybe that's just the form he takes in the afterlife. Again, how does the afterlife work? How would you appear? You've lived your entire life. Do you appear as you did when you died, or as the best version of yourself is? The most pure version of yourself? It's all up to interpretation. I also want to float by the idea that Termina is not a physical realm, but a spiritual one. Now, the depths, on the other hand, does seem to be a physical realm. Link in Tears of the Kingdom does not die when he enters the depths. Maybe Link in Majora's Mask does not die when he enters Termina, but they are experiencing the realm differently. Link in Majora's Mask is experiencing it on a spiritual level, while Link in Tears of the Kingdom is seeing the physical boundaries of what this place is, behind the illusion. You could even go as far to say that the depths is the purgatory before the afterlife, and that this is the problem the Bargainer statues are trying to fix. Spirits that ought to return to the afterlife. They are pitiful beings who have lost their way home and wander this land. In this line, the Bargainer statues imply that the depths is not the actual afterlife, but somewhat of an in-between, which would make this a purgatory. Now, one thing I have to address if I'm making the connection between the Bargainer statues and the four giants, as I am, is that there are 6, actually 7 if you count the one on the surface, Bargainer statues, and 4 giants. What's with that? Honestly, I don't have a good answer for you. Again, there's holes in this. This is not a perfect theory. It's a fun one. It's a fun theory. And as I said, a lot of times the fun ones are the most interesting ones. I'm not trying to cover my bases or anything. I don't care if you guys agree with this theory. I just want you to have fun thinking about it. If I was to shell out some type of argument, maybe there's more than 4 regions in the world of Termina. But then again, I could shoot myself in the foot on that and say that there's only 4 cardinal directions, and that's mentioned in the story, and it's probably not very likely. But I have to say, this is such an interesting theory to me, because looking at what the Kingdom of Hyrule's afterlife might look like is a concept with a lot of potential, and one that the depths very lightly touches and uses for gameplay purposes, but as far as a deeper lore understanding goes, really misses a large opportunity. On the other hand, Majora's Mask creates such an interesting unknown atmosphere of what Termina really is, that it, to this day, 24 years later, still has us talking. There is a reason that so many of my theories on this channel involve Majora's Mask, because it masterfully takes a game with very little story and puts a whole lot of atmosphere into it and a whole lot of vagueness, setting up so many untold stories to be uncovered. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's theory. I know it's been a while since I made one of these, but here we are, another one in the books, and quite honestly, it might be one of the last Zelda theories I make here for a while, just because I'm kind of running out of ideas. I just feel like there's not really a lot left to talk about that's interesting that hasn't already been covered, and I kind of want to try maybe doing some other stuff on the YouTube channel, so I would very much appreciate it if you guys are interested in supporting that at all, but if you're not, that's okay too, maybe just give it a shot. See if you enjoy my shenanigans. But I did want to go ahead and get this last big theory out before we break away, maybe do some other content for a while, because I've just been having, this one's been bouncing around in the old noggin for a while. You know, it's a lot of different ideas kind of mushed into one, and the bargainer statues are just so interesting, and I feel like the only interesting lore detail to come out of Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, I haven't actually played through Echoes of Wisdom yet. I'm hoping to do a stream playthrough of that to have some fun on the channel with you guys, and maybe harken back to our old Link to the Past streams where I just had no idea what I was doing, and it was hilarious. Keep an eye on the channel for that, and you know, I don't really know what I'm doing right now, but I'm gonna try to do some more stuff on the YouTube channel, bring it back, some brand new interests, hobbies, just expand my horizons, and make this an interesting place that you want to be subscribing to. So yeah, thank you guys for watching today. I really do appreciate you giving me your time and caring about what I had to say, and I hope it was interesting. Peace. Have a good one.